Welcome back to Never Enough Novels. If you're a fantasy reader, today's book list is for you. I'm sharing 7 fantasy duologies. So these are book series that only have 2 books in them. And I have been loving this trend in fantasy books lately. I feel like more and more duologies have been popping up. And it's so nice to be able to commit to just 2 books without needing an entire 7 or 10 book series. Plus, most of these duologies are completed, so I think there's only one that is waiting for the second book to come out. So if you love them, you can quickly grab the second book and start reading right away. As always, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel to see all of my book recommendations in the future. And I'm going to put the links to all of these books down below. So if you see any that you're interested in and you grab them from Amazon, that helps support me as a channel as well. The first fantasy duology I want to cover is called Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is a more recent duology. I think the second book just came out last year, and I devoured the first book in just 2 days. So it's basically a game of cat and mouse that takes place between a witch and a ruthless witch hunter who is known for tracking down and killing her kind. About 2 years ago, Rune's world changed forever when a revolution against the witches in power brought a new government into existence, and they are now hunting down and killing any witches that they know of. She's been forced to hide her true identity, and she actually uses a cover as kind of a ditzy socialite. So she's interacting with people in power and those in the government to try and find out and use that information to see who they're currently tracking down and what witches they might have discovered. And on the side, usually at night, Rune has kind of an alter ego that she is using to help save witches before they can find them. As part of her socialite lifestyle, she meets Gideon, who is known as one of the most ruthless witch hunters of all time, and she sees an opportunity to sort of get to know him better and start to woo him so that she can use her relationship with him to gain more information. On Gideon's side, he also potentially sees an opportunity to start to get to know Rune better because something seems off about her, but he just can't put his finger on it. So he sees this kind of relationship that they start to form also as an opportunity. So both of them are playing this dangerous game where they're faking this relationship, but also as they spend more time together, some real confusing feelings start to develop. The second book picks up after an insane cliffhanger at the end of the first one, and Rune and Gideon continue to sort of play these games with each other where they go back and forth between trusting each other fully or trying to deceive each other to achieve their own means. Their paths are both fraught with peril, and they basically have to try to decide if they can survive without each other or figure out a way to live a life and maybe change their world in a way that means they can be together. Next up is One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. And if you're looking for a fantasy book with more of a gothic vibe and an incredibly unique magic system, this is definitely it. And there's new deluxe editions of these books coming out soon, which I am dying to get my hands on. I'll put the links specifically to those deluxe editions down below. In One Dark Window, we journey to the land of Blunder, where magic is alive and well for those who have certain provenance cards. So these are actually physical cards that are kept by certain people in society, depending on who gets access to them or who finds them or who steals them. And it grants the owner different magical abilities. So there are 12 cards in the set, and each card comes with a different ability. But I loved about this magic system that it comes with a cost. So you don't just get to have the cards and do the magic. There is a significant either physical or mental cost associated with using the cards. And I think that concept is so clever and unique. But while magic exists, the kingdom is under threat from this mist that's kind of slowly encroaching on the people and the villages. And the only way to potentially stop the mist is to collect these cards in one set. So our main character, Elspeth, was infected by this sort of magic from one of the cards as a girl, and she has been living with this nightmare in her head ever since. When she sort of reluctantly agrees to help this group of traders collect the 12 cards in the deck before the King of the Land can, she starts to understand more about what this presence in her mind is doing and the consequences and how this nightmare might have a bigger impact on them all than she ever expected. So our main love interest is Raven, who is one of the people trying to unite the deck that she's helping. And both Elspeth and Raven have great chemistry, but also really unique individual reasons for trying to collect the deck and basically save their land. I also loved that the sequel still had our main characters from the first book, but it kind of focused on 2 of the side characters. So we really got 4 main characters throughout this duology and got to learn a lot about them and get in depth into their minds and their motivations and see 2 different love stories. So overall, this duology was just excellently done. It is one that I recommend to absolutely everyone because it's a little bit different than just the normal fantasy or romantasy books that I've read, and I think it was incredibly well written and well plotted. So you're getting an all-around overall incredible fantasy book in these. Next up is my one fantasy duology that doesn't have a second book quite yet. The first book is called A Fate Forged in Fire by Hazel McBride. And this one initially kind of came across my radar because not only does it have dragons, but it's also Celtic inspired. So there's a lot of references to like Celtic language and Celtic myth throughout the story. The first book was just released in 2025, so I don't think we even have a name for the second book yet, but I know from following along on the author's Instagram that she is working on it, and we're definitely going to be wrapping up this story in a duology probably sometime in 2026. So to sum up this first book, to become the first queen in centuries, a powerful blacksmith must use her wits and fire magic to overthrow the corrupt powers ruling her kingdom. But she's also fighting a growing desire for one of the best rival dragon riders in the land. The land where they live is called Chirchena, and it was originally built on this like matriarchal society and the idea that women have more power, but over the years, a series of like fruitless kings in power have sort of corrupted the society and what people believe, and there's this new body called the True Religion who do not believe that magic should be in existence and anyone that has it should not be allowed to use it. Our main character, Amira, was born into the line of succession, but she's basically been living in hiding since she was young rather than staying at court where it could potentially threaten her life. So she's been waiting for the current king to die so that she can claim his dragon and then take over her right to the throne. But when the king does actually die, Amira's plan to take over is foiled, and she is thrust into this game of vicious politics and plots that she wasn't really prepared for. Her biggest adversary is Prince Fiorian, who is also a dragon rider, and he is part of this corrupt, cold, ruthless family that's in power. But through a series of events where Amira and her family are in hiding but trying to develop a rebellion, Amira ends up back at the castle and sort of ends up in this like unexpected alliance with Prince Fiorian. So she's working from inside the castle to accomplish her goals. But as her and Prince Fiorian kind of go through their lives together, she starts to realize that maybe this person and these expectations she had of him aren't necessarily true, and this uneasy truce forms between them. There were some crazy twists and turns throughout this one, and the end of book 1 was shocking. So I'm desperate for book 2 to keep reading and find out how the story wraps up for Amira and Fiorian. The next fantasy duology on my list is called Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. And this is like a romantasy book with World War I setting, and it totally took the book world by storm. A lot of people weren't really expecting to love this kind of historical fantasy, but it is so well written and well plotted that everyone adores it. Basically starts out as this slow burn romance between a woman and her mysterious connection with a man on the other side of a magical typewriter. So it centers on 18-year-old Iris Winnow, and she is a journalist who's supporting her struggling family after her brother Forrest marches off to war and her mother spirals into alcoholism. So while Iris is competing against a fellow reporter, Roman Kit, for a coveted columnist position, she's kind of funneling all of her anxiety and hopes and fears into these letters that she's sending through this typewriter. But the magical typewriter is sending these letters to the person on the other end, and it happens to be Roman, but he's writing back under an alias named Carver. So their anonymous correspondence blooms into this like emotional connection, while also at the same time these two are heated rivals at work. But then tragedy strikes in Iris's life. Her mother succumbs to her alcoholism, and her brother Forrest is unable to be found. So Iris abandons her journalist career and sets off to be a war correspondent instead. Roman ends up following her into the front lines, and he eventually discovers that she's on the other end of this magical typewriter and ultimately reveals this truth to her while they're deep in the trenches. So they fall in love amidst this brutal warfare and the supernatural chaos. This isn't just World War I, it also has these like supernatural elements with gods and who they're fighting for. So the end of book 1 was this dramatic dramatic cliffhanger that leaves Roman and Iris separated, and book 2 picks up almost immediately with both of our lovers at different spots and in less than ideal circumstances. So I still haven't read the second book, but I've heard rave reviews about it and that Rebecca Ross did an incredible job wrapping up the story for these two. Next up is one of the most recommended fantasy duologies of all time, and that's the Six of Crows series by Leigh Bardugo. And you can actually get a special box set of these 2 books on Amazon right now. I think it's only like around $17. So it's a really good way to pick up these 2 books together and have them both available for you. So Leigh Bardugo is like a renowned fantasy writer. So this is one of the duologies that's highest on my TBR list. And these books were published almost a decade ago now at this point, but they're still widely regarded as some of the best out there. So this duology takes place in the Grisha-verse, which is a larger fantasy realm that was created by Leigh, but it introduces readers to a new cast of characters. So we've got criminal mastermind Kaz Breaker, and he's offered the chance of a heist of a lifetime, but it's so dangerous that it could net him a fortune beyond his imagination. So to pull this off, he assembles like a ragtag crew of 6 individuals, each with unique skills and painful pasts. So there's the revenge-driven convict, a sharpshooter with a gambling addiction, a privileged runaway, a silent spy, and a heartrender who uses her Grisha magic to survive the slums. And the last one is a former soldier entangled in conflicting loyalties. So again, this is one of those kind of heist novels that also has a group of people. It kind of reminds me of like Ocean's 11, the movie or something like that. Together, they race against time to break into the impenetrable ice court and retrieve a hostage. But tensions run high among this group as internal conflicts and romantic trysts threaten to undermine their mission. These books are known for their like witty dialogue, page-turning action, and character development, so this is one of those that I cannot wait to dive into. Next up is We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faisal. So this is more of a lush Arabian-inspired fantasy world. It's called Araya. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But magic has vanished and a deadly forest known as the Ars creeps ever closer, swallowing land and hope among these people. So our main character, Zafira, is a skilled hunter, and she's been disguising herself as a man to venture into the Ars, this magical forest, and provide food for her people. But she knows full well that revealing her true identity as a woman would mean rejection and danger. So meanwhile, the other main character, Nasir, is the infamous Prince of Death, and he is known for carrying out ruthless assassinations at his father's command. But although legend surrounds both of these 2 characters, neither really desires the notoriety that defines them. When a mysterious artifact known as the Jarawada, which is capable of restoring magic in this land, is discovered, Zafira embarks on a quest to claim it and save her world. But at the same time, Nasir is told by his father to secure the artifact. So we've got these 2 main characters that are now on this collision course where they're both searching for this magical artifact at the same time. As their paths collide, though, an ancient evil begins to stir in this land. And what initially appears to be a mission born in rivalry turns into an uneasy alliance between these 2. So we've got a little bit of that romance aspect in this one as well. They both must overcome personal and cultural constraints as they're trying to go on this mission, and perhaps discover in each other the will to challenge and change fate itself. I love that this takes place in more of an Arabian-inspired land, so I think that sets it apart from other fantasies out there, and this one also sounds incredible, and it has rave reviews as well. And the last fantasy duology on my list is called Fable and Namesake by Adrienne Young, and honestly, one of my favorite parts about this duology is just the cover. I think they are simply stunning, and the way the 2 covers come together to form like her full face of the main character is just so clever and unique. These are definitely 2 that I would love to have on my bookshelf, like facing out, so you can actually see them together. But anyway, Fable and Namesake are more of a pirate-inspired fantasy, which again, I absolutely love and think is really unique. Our main character is 17-year-old Fable, and she's the daughter of a powerful trader in the Narrows. But she has survived 4 years abandoned on this one island after her mother drowned and her father, Saint, left her there. So she earns a living dredging for rare gems and selling them whenever she can. But she's always longed to kind of go in search of her father and find something more than this island that she's been living on. When she finally amasses enough coins to secure passage off the island. She joins the crew of the Marigold, and it's helmed by the enigmatic West, but she's aiming to confront her father, Saint. She has lots of questions for him and tries to understand like why he left her there, and she also wants to claim her inheritance from him. While she's aboard the Marigold and sailing with this crew, she slowly earns the trust of them, and she finds herself basically on this epic adventure, entangled in dangerous sea voyages, rivalries, and hidden agendas that she's just learning more and more about. But she has concealed her identity, and that starts to develop some tension, especially with West, and his calm exterior is hiding some deeper feelings that are slowly revealed over time. This book builds towards a dramatic climax with a daring underwater gem heist, confessions of true feelings, and a shocking cliffhanger when foes converge and long-buried secrets threaten to surface. If you do like this world building and you want a little bit more from this story, there is also a prequel to this as well. It's called Saint, and it's all about Fable's father, and that cover is simply stunning as well. So that wraps up my list of 7 fantasy duology recommendations. I hope you found a few new ones for you to add to your TBRs. And as always, stay tuned for my next bookish video.